But Jamie, first of all, how are you, my man? How's things your direction?
Yeah, really, really good, mate. I'm busy now. I've got about 6 books out this year. Jack the Ripper, Michael Showers, Godfather, ex-crime lord, Liverpool, Hartlepool, born and bred, Junior Witter, Nick Manners. There might be 1 or 2 more forgot. A Middlesbrough police officer's book who was involved in the Lee Duffy case. So I'm non-stop, mate. I work every single day. It's what makes me happy, really, and it's what keeps me from doing daft things. Do you know what I mean? So it's my addiction, working.
I love it. And like what I love about you, you're kind of like me. You'll go in there to stuff that other people might be cautious to go in there. So like there's interviews out there I do, other people won't do them. Do you know what I mean? Some could be controversial, but like the stuff you cover is incredible. And you meant Junior Witter there. Like obviously a great boxer. So like there's a lot of stuff you have in the pipeline that we will talk about. Well, first of all, we have to dip into Mr. Lee Duffy, a man, you know, the myth, the legend, you know what I mean? Lived by the sword, died by the sword. You know, I've watched many documentaries. There's obviously, you know, more good comments than bad comments. The guy had serious knockout punch. Obviously, you know what I mean? He had a, you know, an incredible life. Like people say, he lived, you know, 3 lives and he was only quite young when he passed away. But how did you come about Lee Duffy first day, Jamie?
Well, so I first heard the name Lee Duffy. I think I put it in the Hall of the Moon book. So I first heard of him when I was about 8. I believed in Santa Claus till I was 9. So listen, I'd never seen him, never knew him, but I was always aware of him from about 1988 because I used to hang around with a lot of older lads playing football, and they'd always talk about this figure in Middlesbrough that everyone was talking about. So obviously when Lee got out of prison in 1990, so I was 10, that when his name, it was kind of heard everywhere. People in my primary school would be talking about it. Obviously, I was only 11 when he was tragically killed. But I first walked into a boxing gym when I was about 12 in 92. So that was the year after. So a lot of like Duffy's victims and, you know, the kind of other names in Middlesbrough were always around the boxing gym. So I grew up and I was just very familiar with this name, Lee Duffy. But, you know, I thought I knew the story until about 5 years ago when I walked in and I met all the characters. You know, obviously it was a very more, what's the word? Very more personal view, you know, sitting down with his best friends and some of his family members. I've been sat with, you know, to be in the pub where the petrol was poured on him, to talk to, like, say, for instance, the guy who poured the petrol on him and all his teeth are missing down the bottom. And that was due to Lee, you know, so I kind of walked in the story and I got far more familiar than what I'd already kind of, for the last 25 years. It was only a name to me, but obviously the last 5 years or so, I mean, it means a lot, because from people like the person who held him when he died to Paul Bryan, who spent 10 months on remand for the conspiracy to kill him. And one of the 2 of his really close friends said, "You got them books absolutely bang on accurate." So that means more to me than people down Bournemouth who've picked the book up. And, you know, because obviously them projects certainly didn't, you know, there were mixed emotions. Obviously the interest was there greatly, but, you know, Duffy was a highly controversial character, very much like Paul Sykes. So not everyone was going to be happy with it. You know, but the main people who I took on board, I mean, certain people close to Lee chose certain charities, which the book still and documentary still support to this day. So, you know, I'd like to think I got it right. And, you know, Middlesbrough Waterstones telling me in, I mean, I'm trying to think when the book was out, 2018. So it's about 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
They said, you know, we've been here 20 years, and that's the most successful book, certainly by a local author we've ever had. 30 was stolen in the first month, so that kind of gives you an inkling of how successful and in demand that book was.
Yeah. And Jamie, like, it's that kind of a thing where, you know, like this whole Lee Duffy story, like for me, you know, it's the last 2 weeks. So I did come across something on YouTube the other day. I'd be always like, in my line of work, we do a lot of boxing interviews and stuff, and like it just happened to pop up. But I watched it last week and then the week prior to that, and ever since, Jamie, I've been obsessed. You know, I've seen you doing all the talks and the interviews, and it's mind blowing, right? But I put it into a WhatsApp group, so like there's 30 odd in the WhatsApp group, and 29%, well, 29 people in that 30 group, you know, they've all watched it, absolutely fucking hooked, and they wanna buy the books. They're hoping the film's going to come out. They're all obsessed. Like, and that's down to you. Obviously, you brought the story to life. It's many books you have brought out. Obviously the Blood Moon. Like it's you know what I mean. First of all, the books you can get them on Amazon, and like there's a nice variety of books there. Like, isn't that thing like where maybe in a year or 2 years down the road you're going to see more sales in these books? Like, you know the way a story starts off, and as long as you can stall, you can go up and down. Like, surely there's more to come with this Lee Duffy stuff. It's going to blow up even better, because I think in Ireland it's catching on. So like in England, obviously everyone knows who Lee Duffy is, but in Ireland right now, everyone's kind of talking about Lee Duffy. They're starting to realize who the guy is. You know what I mean? You know what kind of a legend he was. It's a fascinating watch.
Yeah, do you know what? He's totally unique. And if you go in Waterstones and you have a look at like the Essex Boys, the Craze, Lenny McLean, Roy Shaw, Arthur Thompson, Paul Sykes, they're all older. And the thing was with Duffy, which makes it probably I personally don't think there'll ever be a character like him again. First and foremost is because society's changed so much. You get 5 years these days for carrying a gun. You know, Duffy would walk about, you know, all these kind of crazy antics where he would never see the light of day again. Yeah. But the thing that makes his story so on its own is he was just a young kid. He's been dead now over 30 years. You know, far longer than he was alive, and he's me and you talking about it. And yeah, I you know, at the end of this book, at the end of this year, I think I'll have 26 books out. There will get to a point where I probably get to do 100 books, but I don't think I'll ever be involved with anything that causes the excitement and the kind of you know, I know people who've rang up work sick just to read this Lee Duffy book.
Yeah.
And I call it like a wow factor. And there's only really been the Paul Sykes and the Lee Duffy books that have had that. More so with Duffy, and people are just obsessed with this young kid from Middlesbrough who, you know, once upon a time was in control of the town, but not in control of himself. And you know, he certainly left a legacy, regardless of whether people love him, loathe him. And I just think he's just a total one-off, and I think very much he's put Middlesbrough on the map for a lot of people, because I've had messages in the last couple of years from people from Peterborough, Manchester, London, Kent. I've had people coming over from Ireland to just see Lee Duffy's grave, or see where the commercial was, or where the Afro, and that's just purely because this story is absolutely captivated. It's really grabbed people's imagination, and you know, as I said, I mean, I think it certainly it won't be long before. I mean, I've already had people inboxing me, filmmakers, and I thought, oh yeah, full of shit. And I've looked at them and I thought, Jesus Christ. And I think it's a matter of time before someone comes and does the Lee Duffy film. But yeah, I totally understand, and I get the great interest, because if I'm ever walking about Teesside now, I've almost lost my identity. People they know who I am. They just want to talk to me about Lee Duffy.
Yeah.
It's crazy and it's bizarre, and I don't think I'll probably ever get a book again where people are just that obsessed with such a character.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I've fallen into that trap, you know. As I said, I'd be a big, you know, a big MMA fan, boxing fan, but like, you know, I put all these ideas into my head. You know, Lee Duffy, you know, if he was, you know, a professional boxer, what we like. It's just a myth that there's, you know what I mean, the thoughts of what he could have done, and like obviously taken so young, you know, tragic circumstances. Like I always wonder, you know, how life would have gone for him if he reached his 50s. You know, would he have calmed down? You know, would he have fucking stayed mad in a good way? But like, I read all the comments on YouTube, you know, and a lot of people respected him. A lot of people knew his family, knew Lee in general, and they all said he's a great guy. Look, obviously, you just don't piss him off, basically. You know what I mean? If you're not going to bother him, he's not going to come near you. But what a story. Obsession is definitely the word for me. It's just incredible. And like this whole Southbank thing, you mentioned people want to go to the grave. I actually want to go to the grave. I want to see what Southbank is like. You know what I mean? I know Colin Osborne quite well, the dart player. I've met Glenn Durrant over the years, both Borough lads. I'm looking forward to meeting them and saying on a QT, you know, what's your thoughts on Lee Duffy? Because I know Ozzy's a big fan. But like, you know what I mean? You brought out some incredible books. You know, I'm on Amazon. I'm going to make some serious purchases. Obviously, a very Southbank story. Like, what is Southbank like? Because I come from a place in Cork City called Knocknaheeny, and Knocknaheeny would have a reputation. You know what I mean? It'd be a rough area. It's kind of built up now these days, and it's a great place to live. I've always been happy up there. But Southbank is obviously it's known as it's a very tough place. Jamie, is it?
Well, do you know what? You could probably say Middlesbrough, maybe. I mean, I know it was described as the worst place to live a few years back. Quite a recent poll, I think, I'm sure it was number 1 or 2 even last year. And Middlesbrough's a proper working class town. People don't have much, but it's a tough place where they breed them tough. And Southbank is kind of like a little environment. It's like the population of Southbank. I think I googled it about 2 years back from the polls registered. It was about 6,500. It's pretty much dying now on its knees. But 30 years ago, it had its own football ground. It had its own nightclubs, shopping. You know, it had everything. And yeah, it's just kind of died. But it's a tough place. Paul Daniels, the magician, he was from Southbank. Yeah. A boxer, Commonwealth champion, Paul Truscott, he was from Southbank. Chubby Brown's from the next estate. Yeah. Middlesbrough's greatest ever striker, Wilf Mannion, the Golden Boy. Yeah, it's had some really tough. Danny Phillips, ABA champion a couple of years back. Yeah. But it's a real tough. You know, Duffy was bullied as a kid, and you know, if there was anywhere in Teesside to do his apprenticeship and be brought up in the school of hard knocks, it was Southbank, and that obviously developed his fighting skills, and he become what he became. Yeah. And yeah, Southbank for me. I mean, I grew up in Berwick Hills, which is about 3 miles away. But Southbank is easily, in my opinion, the toughest part of Teesside, hands down. And they just breed them stuff. I think it maybe it's something in the smog, something in the Palmos. Yeah. But it's certainly a tough little. It's like a tough little manor, and you know, there's some proper nice salt of the earth people on there. People like Paul Venice. You know, South Bankers, as they call them, Slaggy Island. But I definitely think Duffy put Southbank and even Middlesbrough on the map.
Yeah, and like, you know Paul quite well. Obviously, look, Paul is a guy. I think, you know, obviously he's been mentioned to be in a movie. I don't know is it going to happen. I know they always say stuff's going to happen and it doesn't happen, and there's setbacks and this and that. But people says he's like, Paul kind of sounds like him a bit. Do you reckon that's a, you know, true fact, the state?
I'm told that the script has been rewritten and Duffy's been taken out and Div Graham's been taken out. But there is going to be a character which Paul Venice is going to play called the Duffer. But essentially, that's a film focusing on the Sayers family, which they're from Tyneside, which is something like 50 miles away. Yeah. But I got a message last year from a guy who won't name, and he said, "Look, Jamie, I'm this film director. I've done this, I've done that. I've done films with Ray Winston." And I thought, "Oh yeah, yeah." And the wife said to me, "Jamie, do you know who that is?" And I googled him, and I thought, "Fucking hell, he's true." And this guy's wanting to, because my Paul Sykes book, them books have been signed to be a script. Sorry, the script's been written, and now the film's going to happen. But I certainly think the Lee Duffy stroke South Bank, I think that's a film all day long. I really do. I think that, in the greatest respect, doesn't need to be anyone's kind of sidekick. I think if that happened, I'd love to see it just a pure Lee Duffy enterprise, because when I done the books, obviously there'd been books with Viv Graham, Steve Richards, but they were predominantly Tyneside, Viv Graham, Newcastle. What I wanted to do, I done 3 Lee Duffy books, if you like, and I wanted it to be pure from Middlesbrough and forget the little bits on the side. Yes, there is people from Newcastle, like the Sayers, and by all means, they needed to be in. They were really close to him. Some carried his coffin. But I wanted Middlesbrough folk to be in there, and I did. And I'm finished with all Middlesbrough books, all true crime really. I'm writing my last one at the minute. One or two, Jack the Ripper and Michael Showers. But as I said, I'm going into footballers, boxers, more Celtic ones, Alex Reed's. But no matter how far I try and get from it, there's never, I wouldn't say every day, but there's without question 2 or 3 times a week, certainly a few times a week, I get messaged, "You've got to do more stuff on Lee Duffy." I got one guy messaging me the other day, and I didn't know who he was. And the wife and my son said, "Do you know who that is again? He's got a blue tick." So I looked into him, and this was a guy really famous in his own right, millions of followers, millionaire, and he's just messaging me, wanting to talk about the Lee Duffy.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, but I totally get it. And as I said, the guy was a one-off, and I could write Henrik Larsson's book. I could Martin O'Neill. I've been in, but I can never shake off Lee Duffy, and it's only growing. It really, really is. It's just getting more progressive. It's the Lee Duffy train, what you want to call it, Duffy mania, is just getting bigger and bigger, and people's interests are just getting more obsessed as the months are going by.
Yeah, they'll have to keep the books on the shelf. As I said, look, it's a thing where as the weeks go on, Jamie, and the months go on, more and more books are going to go, because the story's catching on here in Ireland, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time before it catches on across Europe as well. It's fascinating. I know you're not done with Lee Duffy in the sense. I'm sure there's going to be documentaries and maybe a movie coming our way in the next couple of years. But there's no doubt that you'll be approached if they do such a thing, because you put in a lot of hard work. The 3 books, you've been there, you've talked to people that knew him best. That must have been an incredible feeling to do all that, and obviously be with the people that knew him most.
To be honest, I've done the Paul Sykes books, and they're really, really upset people in the city of Wakefield. Now, I grew up about 70 miles away from Wakefield, and so the name never meant anything to me. I watched Paul Sykes 10 years ago, probably, spent a couple of years wanting to know, asking authors to do it. And I thought, you know what, hold my pint, take my jacket off, walked in the city of Wakefield, walked in Sweet Agony, walked in Paul Sykes at Large, met all the characters, and produced 3 bestsellers for Sykes, which is now to be a film by Western Edge Pictures. But it was all very well doing that with in West Yorkshire and Wakefield, and if people weren't happy about it, it didn't really matter to me because I wasn't from there.
Yeah.
But of course, I grew up barring a couple of years in Scotland. I've spent most of my life in Teesside, and I had to really think about it. And at one point, I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And because there was too much hassle and stress and chaos and, you know, everyone getting upset and that. And someone quite close to me said, well, you need to do it because someone's only, you know, and I got talking to the right people. And I kind of got certain backings from the right people. And I thought, you know what, I've done it. And then, to cut a long story short, here we are today talking about Lee Duffy, almost 30 odd years from him gone, 5 years after the book.
Yeah, no, it's surreal, as you say. Keep the shelf stocked because look, it's catching on. The obsession's there, and it's only a matter of time before it blows up. And you know, I look forward to future documentaries and films. And there's no doubt that, as I said, Jamie, you're going to be involved. Like just speaking of the Celtic books, we know there's a lot in the pipeline for yourself as the time goes on. But there's a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? We know there's the Geordie boy, Alan Thompson. That looks like a good book. As I said, we were lucky enough to meet Alan Thompson, you know, Cork City 20 years ago, pre-season. I think Celtic just won the treble. But obviously he's you know what I mean, he's an iconic player. He was kind of old school, you know, he didn't really mess about, you know what I mean? He was fantastic hit off a ball. What kind of more projects down the Celtic line would you like to do? Because you mentioned Henrik Larsson. I think Martin O'Neill, Jamie, would be a great book. Like I've been lucky enough to meet Martin numerous times. You know, I remember when my son was only a couple of months old, we went down to Foda Hotel and Resort. Martin was the manager of the Irish team. Roy Keane was assistant. And Martin gave us all the time in the world, you know what I mean? A very intelligent guy. That'd be something that would definitely be worth looking at for yourself, maybe.
Well, do you know what? I met Martin. I mean, I've had quite a bit of interaction with him in the last year. And I mean, I've met a lot of people, famous, infamous, notorious, you know, and I never ever get over when my phone ringing and I say to the wife, Martin O'Neill's ringing me. But yeah, I met him. I spent a bit of time with him in London last summer, and Martin's obviously a bit obsessed with true crime. So I was there meeting him in London about Alan Thompson, but when he found out who I was, you know, he was just like, oh, fuck Alan Thompson. We just want to talk about like Paul Sykes, Jack the Ripper. Yeah, he's a very intelligent guy. Before he was becoming a footballer, he was trained to be a barrister. But I mean, I've spoken to him. He's had 2 books out, but he's never actually written them himself. Yeah. You know, I mean, I've spoken to Didier Gat quite recently. Ricky Burns. He's going to have a few more fights, and I'm going to speak with him, possible.
Ricky's story is incredible. I've met Ricky numerous times, and Ricky to me is iconic. Like is he 3-weight world champion or 2-weight? 3 in it. 3-weight.
3-weight.
Yeah, it's a 3-weight world champion. I've got one of these boxes. Yeah, he's I see. He's Ricky's the man. Does he still operate the sports shop in Glasgow in Scotland?
No, he kind of packed that in. I think he kind of packed that in after the European level, although he did carry it for a lot of years, and that's what humbles him. Do you know what? There's 2 characters I've met in the last 10 years. And they're actually nicer than what you think they are. One being Josh Warrington, who I knew kind of before he was famous, and one Ricky Burns. And Ricky said, "Jamie, I'm just having a couple more fights, and I'm going to sit. And I'm, you know, I'm quite confident I can get his book." You know, I mean, Alan Thompson. Alan's kind of just become a friend to me now. But you know, listen, he's a fact, and it's a bit cringy, but it's true. 20 years ago, I mean, I split up from the ex and I moved back to my mum's. I was about 22, and I had Alan Thompson posters on my bedroom.
Epic. I used to have one as well, believe it or not. So there you go. It's not cringy. It's normal.
You know, it was a proper scoop. And I really, you know, I don't mind saying this now because the book's been done, but I didn't want to let Alan on. I was what's the word? I was really focused. I would give a limb to do his book, and I didn't want to let him know I was desperate, even though I was. And you know, it's he's been great for my career, and he's been great getting to know as a person, because once upon a time I was a Pain supporter. He's been to my house a few times, and I remember being at Celtic Park at Media Bratislava when he scored one of his last goals, and then I've got him walking upstairs naked in my shower. And he's a good laugh as well. He gets me because I'm a bit strange and a bit odd. And Alan kind of got me before we even met. But he's a good energy, and I like Alan Thompson. I've got a lot of love for him.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. And as I said, I've had the honor of meeting him. I still have the autograph in the program. It's framed. He's iconic. And like, just moving off to football, I know you have like the Ricky Burns book sounds incredible. All the future boxing books and you know, football books will be incredible. I just had to mention, we had a couple of lads, when I mentioned you were coming on for a quick chat, they had to say, Jerry, you mentioned Paul Sykes, like we all came across that strange little interview where he's sitting down and he's on about swimming across the ocean, and who the fuck's this guy? He looks mad and he's really crazy, but like, let's be honest, he was some character. It's quite sad to see how the life kind of ended out for him in the end, you know, but what a character, and you know, a tough bastard, true and true.
Do you know something? I get asked a lot. I don't get into could he win, and could you can talk about boxing and you can talk about football because there's form, but could Paul Sykes beat Lee Duffy and all that kind of schoolboy talk. But what I will say is, I think Sykes from about 77 to about, I mean, there was a good 15-year period. He was unbeatable. You know, he had the boxing skills. He was freakishly strong. He had that bit of nastiness in him. You know, and I dare say, listen, I mean, that's what got me into writing books. And I seen that documentary 10 years ago. And obviously, I've really interested in boxing and true crime. And I was 32, and I thought, who the hell's that guy? And I found out he died, and then I wanted to know so much. So, you know what? I wasn't even an author then. I was just someone obsessed with a lot of energy and passionate about the story. Yeah. And I kind of walked into the story, and I met everyone, and I met Delroy Showers and John L. Gardner and John Spenceley and Paul's sister, and I've been in the prison to visit his sons. So, you know, it's just been really surreal for me. But Paul Sykes, I've never come across this character in my entire life. There's nobody who I've met in real life or I've read about. I could read about him all day. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I've watched Paul Sykes at large over 100 times now, and I never get sick of it. Yeah. But, you know, I know who's going to be playing him in the film. I know the 80s band's going to be doing the full soundtrack. I know some of the actors are going to be in it, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely massive. Big star looking to play Sykes. And when you find out, you put a tash on him, you think, Jesus Christ, he's actually about 42 now. And the film will start from 1989 when he gets out of prison. So that was Sykes 43. So the actor's 6 foot. He's going to put weight on his practiced Yorkshire accent. And I can really see this being, Paul Sykes being as big as, like, you know, your Crays, your Bronsons, because at the minute, it's very much kind of small. It's just, you know, people have watched the YouTube of just some guy talking about punching sharks, but you don't really understand the full story. It's very tragic. It's very sad. It's a harrowing tale about a man who could have had everything, but died in the gutter and had nothing. Yeah. Kids pissing on him, setting him on fire, smashing eggs on his head. You know, 15-year-old kids going beating him up and then saying, I've just beat Paul Sykes up. You know, when really they just beat up a shell of a man who used to be like Paul Sykes. You know, there's certainly no glamour in how his life ended up. And yeah, it's, you know, it's sad, but above all, it's a true story. And you know, it's you can cry when you, I don't know, was it karma? Did life come around and bite him on the backside? I don't know. It's for other people to decide. But very, very sad story, but it's one that's extremely true.
Well, I look forward to that. And like, as you say, it is a fascinating thing. And yet again, these will be things, you know what I mean? It's the stories are like, you know what I mean? They're many years old, but like they're coming to light right now and coming to life, you know what I mean? It's incredible. And yet again, Jamie, that's thanks to yourself. One of the lads wanted me to ask, Jamie, have you ever reached out to Charles Bronson? Because we've seen stuff and we've heard audio clips, and he does give interviews if you probably know him. If you ever tried to do something down the lines of that, because look, I know the way you think. You have that brain that does not sleep. Is this something you've ever thought about doing, or have you done?
Yeah. I'm quite hyperactive. I don't probably fall asleep till about 5 in the morning, and then I'm up at like 10. Do you know what I mean? So I'm constant, and that's what I'm like 7 days a week. I think that's what brought a lot of anxiety on. Yeah, I've spoken to him years ago. He sent me a few letters. I interviewed him for 1 or 2 books. He wasn't very happy with me at one point. Paul Sykes' son and 1 or 2 other people had to go at him. And I said, look, it's not me. The story that he's referring to, I wasn't even born. But he sent me, yeah, I think he's all right for me in the end. He sent me some letters. He reads all my books. I've sent him some free books, and he said my books are very good, but my covers were crap. And could he do the next couple of lots? So, you know, I think it's really tragic. I personally, you know, I've been inside prisons with people, and I know people who work, and you know, to get from Cat A, you've got to, he would have to be in a normal wing for at least 2 years, and then he'd go off to Cat B and Cat C and then Cat D. So you probably, if he woke up tomorrow and was a saint, you're still talking 7 years before he's going to be released, and then by then he'll be in his 70s, and he'll have done over 50 years. You know, I think to be honest, he brought a lot on himself, you know, and yeah, it's, you know, you can't fight against the system for 40 odd years and then think, well, hang on, I want to get out now.
Yeah.
I think he will get out. God willing, and keeping him good health. But I think he's 6, 7 years easy. And I've spoke to people inside the prison. You know, I actually went inside. I went to visit Paul Sykes' son in Dovegate about 6 years ago. So I have to speak with a lot of the pastors and the people. Graham Seed, friend of mine, he spends a few days inside prisons. So I know how the prison system works. And, you know, there's talk about Bronson for parole next year. It's not happening. You know, I think it will, but it's, you know, if you've never had any neighbours for 30 years, they're not just going to let you out. As I said, you'd have to be on at least a normal wing for 2 years just to prove you can interact with normal human beings. And I think when it does happen, it's years away, sadly.
Yeah, no, it's sad, and he should be released. You know what I mean? As you said, like, the man's never like, he's committed crimes, but like, you know what I mean? Let's be honest. You know what I mean? They're not. This day and age, it's a bit of a joke. He's been in there for so many years. But I heard an interview. Obviously, I'm just quickly touching base. There was an interview where he was chatting to some guy that obviously knows him quite well on the phone or whatever. And Lee Duffy was mentioned. He said obviously he was in prison with Lee Duffy at some stage, and I think they beat the shit out of some guy that deserved a beating.
Yeah, that was one of the letters he sent me, actually. I can't remember off the top of me. I think it must be in the book. He gives his memories of, I think it was Armley in the 80s or 88, Armley prison in Leeds. You know, and he said Lee kind of sent him a couple of postal orders afterwards, but I think it was only brief. But obviously, for anyone who met Lee Duffy or Paul Sykes for that matter, which I've come across a lot in the last couple of years, and they've said, even though they met Duffy once or Paul Sykes once, they never forgot it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I described it in the documentary as a bit like a JFK moment. Listen, I was 11-year-old when Lee Duffy died, but I'll never forget the feeling when I found out, and for 2 weeks afterwards. So I was a little kid who, you know, my only interest was WWF wrestling and Glasgow Celtic. But I remember how strange and how bizarre the feelings were over the town of Middlesbrough, from Duffy dying to 13 days later when he was buried. And it was never, I'd never noticed anything like that in Middlesbrough. You'd have thought a prime minister was being born at Middlesbrough before. Since there's never seen a prime minister, never seen a burial like that. And I don't think anything will ever come across. There was probably 5,000 or 6,000 people lining the streets to South Bank. So he certainly, regardless of the opinion of him, left a legacy. And it's the same with Paul Sykes. A lot of people say, oh, well, I met Paul Sykes once, and whether he scared the life out of him in the Lupset Workmen's Club, or he was a tramp on the street who shouted at them, or there's always that kind of memory that people never forgot.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I could listen to you all day, my man, and I'm hooked, when it comes to, the Jamie Boyle books and all future books. I'm going to be a purchaser, I promise you that. I know you're going to have a lot more fans in Ireland. We're hoping to have you over here in Cork. Look, there's a massive couple of Celtic bars here in Cork. I'm sure we're going to get you over. We'll have a little connection, hopefully in the summer where we'll get you over.
I think Alan Thompson's over in the summer. I'm pretty sure he is. So yeah, I'm sure I'll be along.
I'm going to look after you either way. I promise you that. And I'll take it. We'll go to a nice chipper and we'll get some nice food. But as you say, man, it's an absolute honor and a privilege to speak to you. I'm a big fan. I'm an even bigger fan now because I've been hooked the last 2 weeks. The space of 2 weeks, life-changing stuff for me. But look, it's a pleasure. We'll have all the interviews, and obviously, we'll have all the platforms, all your links, Amazon, the whole lot on the interview as well. You're a gent. We wish you all the best, and we'll catch you soon, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Okay, Jamie. See you soon, my man.